Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, max out your savings. The more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Plus, get free home delivery on any smart bed with base. Limited time. Check it out at a Sleep Number store near you or at sleepnumber.com today.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
All right, friends, welcome back to the show. I have a really OG special guest today. Her name is Rebecca Nellis, and we met in the salad days of Livestrong when the yellow wristbands were prevailing and before the crash and fall of Lance at the very dawn of the young adult cancer movement. She is an extraordinary human being and has become a true dear friend of mine for almost 20 years now. She is currently the executive director / CEO / badass permanent temp of Cancer and Careers, but that is like 10% of the show because this is an extended special edition 60-minute episode with 2 breaks. That it never happens, but it's worth it. I promise you, we have so much in common beyond all the obvious things in our career paths. She's a theater nerd. She knows Cleavon Little. She hung up on Bon Jovi once. She's just a Second City nerd. And she's one of the most authentic, honest, true human beings I've ever known. And you are going to love our conversation. Even if it takes you 3 days to listen to it, it's worth every second. I'm Matthew Zachary. This is Out of Patience. Let's get started. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, boy.
We're here.
It only took you 4 years, I think, to get me in the room.
Well, the show started in the fall of 29. Wait, damn it. The show started...
I was going to let you go.
Now
we're in the future now.
No, Kyle's just going to crop that out. My DeLorean is lying to me. No, I left Stupid Cancer in February 19, and I started in like September 2019. And you were like my first. I'm like, come on, I got to do. You know who my first guest was? Fucking Johnny.
You invited me to come with Johnny.
And you couldn't make it.
I know.
Yes.
So you're saying it's not 4 years, it's 6? That's less. That feels worse.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
is what I'm getting
that's all
from
it
this.
Took.
Yeah, just 6 years. Actually, that's a pretty good turnaround for me, I think.
Well, yeah, because you were on the Stupid Cancer show in like 2010. So
yeah. There was one in between.
Well, I think I was forced to have you on because it was sponsored.
You're welcome.
It was against my will.
I don't know. You plucked me. You asked me to come. Here I am 6 years later.
And, no worse for wear. Better late than never.
I think that should be our lean. Better late than never.
Better late than never.
Yeah. That could apply to a lot of things that we think about on a daily basis, Matt. Better late than never.
I'm not going to go there.
I'm just saying, in our professional realms, it's better to see the progress than never see the progress, even if it feels slow.
I'm glad I never peaked.
I guess we'll see.
My peak is pending.
Well, it certainly wasn't high school.
No, God, no. Are you a band geek too, besides a theater geek?
No, my story is a little different. Well, actually, I have an interesting story about band and theater. I don't know if you want to hear it, though.
I might have researched it already, but go ahead.
Well, so I spent my freshman year of high school in a big public high school that is now well known in Chicago because Michelle Obama went there. But at the time, that was not a piece of information that was relevant because I'm old. And so
1874, right?
That's right. Okay. So when I got to this high school, there was a very robust drama department and there was a very robust music department because it was a magnet high school and had a lot going for it. And so I auditioned for band because I had played percussion in elementary school. For me, elementary school was K through 8. So I mean sort of 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
Like snare drum or bass drum or tambourine or triangle?
All of the above. It was percussion.
Pan percussion.
Pan percussion. Very nicely done, sir.
You know, piano's percussion too.
Sure. And I actually played the bells briefly in order to learn how to read music as part of the percussive landscape. So I auditioned for band and I get put in like the intermediate band, which makes sense. Otherwise, what were all those years prior for? Right. As a freshman, like that would have been a real...
All that training wasted.
All that fail. Except that band and theater happened at the same time. And so I had to pick.
Conflict.
And for me, theater was always the thing. And then I only spent a year at that public high school. And then I went on to an arts high school where I studied theater in a much more profoundly in-depth way.
Did you have some kind of like magic mentor that showed up and changed your world? Because I did.
So it's interesting. Not at that point in time. So the arts high school that I went to was very small. I graduated in a class of like 38 when I was done.
How elite.
Small, just small, like 200 and some odd kids in total.
Not fame.
No, although we got asked that all the time, right? Because if you're going to a school where you do academics in the morning and you have a creative pursuit all afternoon and whatnot, it is seen that way. So spent 3 years at that high school and then moved to New York to go to NYU. And I had extraordinary teachers who now I realize were so much younger than I am right now. My arts teachers, my theater teachers, right? They were practicing young 20 and 30-something theater makers.
Wait, did they feel 60 years old at the time?
They didn't, but like, you know, your skew is so skewed. So they didn't feel out of touch. But like once I reached certain ages, I was like, damn, I'm like the same age as like the people who I was railing against when something didn't go well or who I was bowing at their feet because I thought they were, and they just weren't that old, Matt. Now that I have age in myself, it turns out they weren't that old.
There's a gracefulness to our aging though.
And an eccentricity, but we'll come back to that.
Okay.
So anyway,
we're not going to come back to that. We're going to forget to do that.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
You're in charge, just trying to move us beyond. Anyhow.
And scene.
So the end of my story is when I moved, not the end of my whole story, the end of this story. We're not there yet in terms of the end of my story. So when I moved to New York to go to NYU, one of my favorite teachers from the arts high school also left and moved to New York to take the next steps in her professional life. And her name is Shira Piven. And when Shira came to New York, she brought me into some of the off theater she was doing to be rehearsal manager and stage manager and run lights and things like that while I was going to school. And so while I wouldn't have described her, and I probably still wouldn't describe her as a mentor, it was profoundly sort of that groundwork we'd laid when I was in high school carrying into like my life in New York and giving me a life in the theater way before someone who was studying it at Tisch might have had it the way that I was having it. And so that was pretty amazing.
There's an interesting anthropology to come to New York than just to be born here and have your theater universe birthed of your geography.
Yeah. I mean, Chicago's a theater town.
That but nothing's New York, though.
See, I would be ready to fight you, and we might have to put pause on the podcast and go duke it out.
Chicago, West End, Broadway, go.
No, that's not the kind of theater I mean, though. First of all, I'm not a big fan of Broadway. So
you have to leave now.
That's fine. I'm comfortable with that. You're forgetting that Chicago is the home of improv, of ensemble.
Yes.
Like what? So that some days I'm sorry I left that universe and came here.
You said you're not on SNL anymore?
No, it's not.
Your one day of skits?
It's not. The improv for some of us just teaches us how to work together, right? And and how do you listen actively on a stage, even if you have a script? And how do you embody story, not float above it? Like there's so much that improv teaches you, including how to function in the nonprofit world and how to take the turns that you aren't expecting and figure it out as you go. And workarounds are pretty common in off Broadway theater, right? And so when you think about it from that lens, I have a lot of skills from that apply to my life in the nonprofit space. So I would argue that Chicago and New York offer different things, but Steppenwolf keeps sending things to Broadway and they keep winning awards.
Yep.
So we're not saying that Chicago isn't a theater place. So I think for me, I would have probably gone to Chicago if I wasn't from Chicago, but I wanted to live someplace besides where I was from. And so New York was obviously the place that made sense. And I only applied to one college and I applied early and I had no plan if Tish didn't say yes. So there was also that.
There you go. I mean, when you train in the absurd and then you work in the absurd, you kind of you're already desensitized to it.
A little bit. I was like, my mom was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, get a job and try again. And she was like, I don't love that plan. I was like, well, here's hoping that's not the plan then.
Who are some of your stage mentors or stage heroes?
Oh, goodness. I mean,
Don't say Brando.
I wasn't going to. I was gonna mention a playwright named Maria Irene Fornés. I am really interested in deeply character-driven work. I am really interested in current work. I am not a Shakespeare fan. I think it has been explored and evolved, and it's wonderful if you love it, but I am interested in something that hasn't been already. My favorite part of the process is the development of a new script and putting it out there for the first time so that the process can keep going. I like short, 90 minutes or less, no intermission, one room, one scene, one staging.
Godot?
Well, I'm going to see Bill and Ted do it in November.
I was going to ask you if you had already bought tickets because I can't afford it right now. I gotta like put the pennies in the giant pig bank to save up for that. But I'm jealous you're going to go.
Yeah, it was on a very short list. I don't even know if to be honest, to see Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter do it, just like my Gen X soul was like, we have to go.
It wouldn't work with anyone else.
No, in a way, it's the only way I want to see it because I'm also not terribly I'm not like, how many times do we need to do that? But we might need to do this. I don't know. It's one of those moments.
It harkens me back to, I was telling the story recently. In 7th grade, we went to go see The Crucible. Very, very challenging show to watch at like 12 years old. But the star was Justine Bateman from Family Ties.
I don't need you to tell me who she is.
Well, those are for the 12-year-olds
Okay, I'm just saying, and her brother Jason, who I still love to this very moment.
Yes.
Okay.
So, of course, being terrible Staten Island children, not me, I'm excusing myself because I was just quiet in the back. They kept yelling, Mallory, during her performance, distracting her. So rude. So I want to imagine like what version of that is going to happen with Bill and Ted. Like everyone's going to, whoa.
Yeah.
The whole time.
There is the potential for that worry. Hopefully, because we're technically adults now in the room with them. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not saying definitely. I'm just offering there's a maybe.
I'm waiting for the electric guitar riff just to float on the aura.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What are the nods? Will there be any nods? I know, it's so good. But this I'm gonna bring us back. You did ask about a mentor, and it did make me think. Again, not exactly a mentor, but one of my mom's best friends in her youth, and then into her adulthood and into my life, was Cleavon Little.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Cleavon was also the first person I ever knew who passed away and the first person that cancer touched in my life. And I was 15. And I had just transferred schools, and he had given me advice for the audition for the art school.
Wow, the internet failed me and didn't find that nugget. That's incredible.
Yeah, he was an extraordinary person. So the first straight play I saw, not musical, right? So I met Judd Hirsch in the green room, and Cleavon was always giving me a hard time because I read way above my age, right? So he was always giving me things that he thought were going to be harder to figure out. And then he said, I was young, I was 9 or 10 or something like that. And he said to me at some point in the play, because I think everyone was worried, was I going to be able to stay in it? Because
Right.
I'm going to point, and it's not something I usually do, and it's going to make total sense in the scene, but you're going to know it's for you. And I was like, okay. So did I watch that play very carefully for that moment? Yes. Did he point? Yes. Did I know it was for me? yes, was that one of the coolest things that live theater ever showed me you could do while it making total sense with everything else that was going on? Yes.
That's like the coolest little intentional Easter egg that you knew about.
Totally. But I had to at 9. I mean, if he'd said later, did you see me point at you?
Yeah,
And you hadn't warned me, I would have been like, no, I surely did not. But yeah.
So do you remember your first musical?
I'm pretty sure it was Annie on
Mine was
Broadway.
Annie,
Yeah.
of course. Whose wasn't at our age?
I don't know. But yeah, so yeah. And I
Peter
loved
Pan.
it. I didn't see Peter Pan.
With Sandy Duncan, yeah.
Oh, wow. And I also loved deeply the Tap Dance Kid, and Savion Glover is my hero to this day.
Yeah. He's still around, right?
Oh yeah, and watching him dance now is a emotional experience for me, and he is challenging the moment in time in life, and you and I and he are all similarly aged.
I saw a recent mashup. It was Sammy Davis and Gregory Hines.
Ooh.
And then it was Gregory Hines and Sabian Glover. But not the three of them, because Sammy had passed away by the time that happened. But and then let's throw the Nicholas brothers in just for shits and giggles.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, amazing. And it's just, I've seen moments of genius. For me, watching him, he is genius. Like it courses through him in such a spectacular way.
God, Cleavon Little.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, as we're recording this, it's June. This will air in the fall. But Spaceballs too?
I know. And when you see all the ways that Mel Brooks continued to talk about Blazing Saddles and I just watched a 2-parter on Apple TV Plus about being first on the call sheet as a Black or African-American actor or actress.
Because he wasn't supposed to get the part.
And then he had the part, and it didn't open all the doors you would have thought it
Right.
would have because of the time that it happened in. And there was interview footage I'd never seen before with him, and it blew my brains out to see him not in a role, but as himself talking on an interview.
Right. Just to not break too many fourth walls here, the scene in Blazing Saddles where Gene Wilder says, morons, and he laughs. That was unscripted. He didn't know that was the joke.
So good.
That movie would be 5 minutes
good.
long today.
Oh, for sure. You couldn't make it now.
No,
absolutely not. But extraordinary.
Yes. Rip Cleavon Little. Bravo. Well done. That beat every other thing I learned about you that I didn't know about, with one exception that, you put Bon Jovi on hold.
I sure did.
How many people ever asked you about this story?
I have shared it a few times, once in an interview because it felt right. I mean, it's not like I'm wearing it on a t-shirt, but it was a pretty great, it was actually a really life lesson, a workplace life lesson that I didn't know I was going to have that day, which I was interning the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, 100% a nepotism internship. My mom was the music and book and other things editor at Playboy. She made a phone call. Mercury Records was a friend. The friend said, we can add Rebecca to the intern pool. Sure.
Nepo babies for the win.
Right there. So I was like intern number 2, right? Because came in late. I didn't treat it as seriously as someone else might have. So there was a day where they were having a big meeting with like the entirety of the PR team and marketing and whoever else. And so I was there, and my supervisor, who was this woman's assistant, needed to be in the meeting. And so I was left with the phones and one instruction: do not interrupt this meeting under any circumstances.
Ooh.
I was like, okay, I can do that. Like, what did I think was going to happen? I was going to answer. I know how to answer the phone. I know how to take a message. Just in case you're wondering, if you grew up with the landline and no answering machine, you were responsible for taking messages for lots of people. It was like on the ground training. I was ready for this.
Do you have the phone with like the 11 buttons on it?
Oh yeah. There were more buttons than I was comfortable with, but I knew which buttons I needed to use.
Okay.
And also, it was like an hour and a half or something. Like, they weren't going to be gone all day. I was like,
who could possibly call?
Oh, kind of, yes. No one had called up until this point. That was terribly urgent in my sort of witness. So anyway, they go into this meeting, and of course, I answer the phone, and the voice on the other end of the phone says, "Can I talk to the woman whose department it was. And I was like, I'm sorry, she's in a meeting. Can I ask who's calling? And he said, Jon Bon Jovi. And in my tiny little 19-year-old brain, I processed like 450 pieces of information in that moment and decided that the right call of action was to put him on hold and go do the only thing I was told not to do, which was interrupt this meeting. So I get to the door and I open it and you can see the daggers.
Like the Miranda Priestley stare at you?
Yeah, I mean, she was not a difficult woman at all, but I'd been given one instruction. Like, you have one job.
Yes.
One job. Don't interrupt this meeting so we can have this meeting. And I can feel the, like, what are you doing? And I said, I have Jon Bon Jovi on hold. She cleared that room so fast.
Yes. Worth it.
Worth it. And I sort of it was the first time that I had the kind of job, I had been a junior counselor and I had babysat and I had worked in the theater and been paid for things, but I had never had an office-based anything. And so it was a real learning moment of sometimes your gut overrides the instruction. And I was someone who was comfortable following the instruction, especially at that point. Like, don't interrupt this meeting was a pretty straightforward instruction. And then I learned that, in fact, you have a gut, you have an instinct that can, in fact, inform your decision making, and you might, in fact, do the opposite of what you have been instructed to do.
I wonder if your boss learned her lesson where there's an asterisk the next time the next person said, no one interrupts this meeting except for the Pope, Obama,
Totally.
Bradley Cooper.
It's a reminder that there's nuance to everything,
Yeah.
and you probably want to offer people some guidance on that.
Right.
But yeah, so I did. I put Jon Bon Jovi on hold, which was the right thing to do.
And I assume she eventually took the call and everything was smooth afterwards.
Yeah, and she cleared the room and took the call from the conference room.
Got it.
So yeah, we were good.
So, all right. Have you apologized to him recently?
For putting him on hold?
Yeah, I'm sure he regrets every second of that whole time.
I haven't.
Okay.
I think he was okay. He did get to talk to the person he wanted to in the time frame he wanted to, as opposed to being told she was unwilling to speak to him. And
I wonder how many times Bon Jovi's been put on hold.
It was kind of an in-between moment. He was doing a bunch of solo work. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not a lot, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. One more thing before the break. Again, I don't know. I do know you enough to know why this was something you would talk about only once. But you seem to be very proud of having visited 42 countries. And you've mentioned this on 2 separate articles that I read about you. I've known you're a world traveler. I've known you go tons of places. You have sort of storied photos from the many, many ziggat experiences you have given yourself around the world. But, why you've been to more than 42 countries by now. Why is 42 still? Is it Douglas Adams?
No. So I don't know why I was so focused on 42, except, Matt, that I am accurate. So if those interviews happened when it was 42, then those were 42. And that's probably why. I had a big moment, which is now quite a number of years ago, leading up to my 40th, where I realized...
Last year?
Exactly. Let's tell people that. Where I realized with my sister, we were away for my 39th birthday, and she made me do the math, and the math worked out that I only needed 3 more countries or territories to have hit 40 for 40. And so then I was very focused on, don't I have to hit 40 for 40? Why wouldn't you hit 40 for 40? So I would argue that the reason I said the same thing twice is because those things happened in proximity to that being the number. But what I will say about the travel is I never left the country until I was almost 20. I didn't have a passport until then. We didn't have that kind of disposable income. And my mom doesn't fly anymore. And so leaving the country was such a big part of understanding the world. And I wanted to be a creative human and to reflect the world, which is what the arts do. You have to interact with it. And so it taught me a million things. I am an introvert by nature, and I have worked very hard in the environments where I need to be able to be outside of that. Travel was a huge part of that. When you travel by yourself, you're either going to talk to no one or you're going to find a way to overcome that. And I bet you did not learn this in your exploration, but I'm married to someone who I met traveling in the Chilean desert in 2001.
By the Nazca lines?
It was not so far away from them. We were in a place called San Pedro de Atacama. He did that as a separate part of his trip. And at the time, that's not when we became a couple, but that is where we met. And so travel has given me all kinds of things.
Okay. Well, on that note, we're going to come back after a break and talk about where the travel has brought you that you kind of despise having to be.
Oh.
All right. Right back after this, folks. So the question is like, why the hell did you go into nonprofits? Like, what a pivot from Second City, right, to nonprofits. I don't even think I know how that bet was lost.
So I don't see it as a losing bet. I think I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to give you the medium long answer, I feel like is right. So
I mean, no one really cares anyway. No one's listening. So
that's true. I was just thinking for your own sake.
Okay.
So I moved to New York to go to NYU to study theater at Tisch. I worked in the theater outside of school my first year. I have a great sidebar story about managing the scary room at the Theater for the New City during their Halloween event as the first thing I did in New York, where I met a performance artist named Copernicus who had a manager named Tanya, and they loved me so much they hired me to do some work for them after that, which was my first paid gig in the theater. And he had a brownstone near what is now Barclays, but wasn't then because it did not exist. And BAM was not as large a footprint, and Mark Morris wasn't out there. There was nothing. So I would go out there, and his top floor was his rehearsal space, and we would rehearse and he would do shows. And so, I was having a life in the theater. I got, thanks to Shira, connected to a theater company where she was directing a play and I was the rehearsal manager. And then I can't remember, lights, sound, something to support the stage manager during the production. And then Shira went off to do something else, and I stayed with the company and worked on the next show. And so I was school and theater and all of that stuff. And then I started dating a drummer in a band.
As one does.
As one does in New York.
Long hair?
No, not in his lifetime, sure. Not at this point in time, no. And they were an Anglo-Irish band who was releasing their second record and coming to America to support that. And then ultimately some of them stayed and some of them didn't. And the band reshaped and reformed. But that sort of impacted the trajectory of kind of my existence. And so I was doing less theater and I got a job and I took a year off of NYU and then did 2 years and 1 year and 2 summers because I'm a crazy person. And we traveled a lot. He was Irish. That's how I wound up in South America, where I ultimately met Jason, who I am now married to.
Irish and South America.
So Seamus was Irish. We traveled a lot of places, including South America, where I met Jason, who is Australian, who I am now married to.
Right.
Yeah. It's international, Matt.
The passport thing makes more sense now.
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
And the world was just so interesting. I don't know. And photography was an additional creative pursuit of mine, and travel afforded. And again, this was before you had a map in your phone and a camera in your phone. I was hauling around 30, 40 rolls of film by the end of these long trips. And I had no idea what was on them.
What was that word? Film? Film?
Film, yes, I know.
What?
Film,
What?
I know.
Okay, photomat.
It had to be developed.
Remember that, kids? Google it, kids.
Gosh, we sound old. Anyway, so all of this is happening during those first sort of 4 or so years that I'm in New York. And when I went back to NYU, I did not want to go back to studio practice. I wanted to make theater, but I was not terribly interested. I didn't want to be a performer. I wanted to be a director. And I wanted to make my own work. And so when I went back to NYU, I worked on some things separate from class, but I did internships. And so the way that the nonprofit piece comes into my life to begin with is my fall semester senior year of college, I intern at a TV show called Late Line with Al Franken.
Wow.
In the casting department.
This is prior to Senate.
And yes, because I'm old.
But post SNL.
Yes. It was 1998.
Stuart Smalley had been sunset.
So that was one of my 2 internships, and the other internship was in the grant writing department at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And so BAM is my first nonprofit environment. I wasn't smart enough to realize there were lots of departments, and maybe I was going to want to be in one of the other ones, but the team in the grant writing department was awesome. And so by second semester, I was there as my entire internship. But what's funny about the Late Line gig was the casting office was in the same building as Nickelodeon and MTV and VH1, and it was during the beginning of Total Request Live.
That was 1515 Broadway.
Yes.
The infamous.
So there were all of these people outside all the time waiting for their favorite late 90s, not my music, pop sensation, while I was just trying to get upstairs to the cast, like this tiny little casting space for Late Line, which filmed out in Queens. So that's the beginning of the nonprofit world. And then I finished, I don't even know if this came up in your background. You're going to love this. So I finished at NYU with summer study abroad in Prague. And then Seamus and I traveled. And then I came back and I needed a job. And so the job that I got was office manager and assistant for the King Biscuit Flour Hour record label.
That's not on LinkedIn. You gotta add that shit. That adds character.
Are you sure it isn't? I should not admit how little I look at my own LinkedIn, despite telling people in my professional life regularly how important LinkedIn is. Anyhow, so I only that only lasted like sub 6 months.
You dress up like a biscuit or something?
No. Do you know what the King Biscuit Flour Hour is?
Was that a kid's show?
No, it was live gigs from 70s bands.
Really?
Yeah. And so the label put out those shows. So like
goes to internet to look right now.
Think Mountain. Like has a King Biscuit Flour hour that was put out as a record.
That's awesome.
And I 100% got that job because my mom had gigged me some work during her time at Playboy. And
so Nepo squared.
Well, no. So in that case, not so much. I mean, I guess maybe they just loved the idea that Playboy was on my resume in any way, shape, or form. My mom didn't know them. Yes.
Good.
She's got awesome ones. I'm delighted and proud.
Playboy magazine.
Yeah, very complicated.
Yes, very complicated.
My mom was there for 33 years.
Wow.
1970 to 2003.
I read it for the articles.
Lots of people did that. Imagine being the kid whose house you come over to with Playboys all over the place because that's where your mom works. Anyway, that's clearly a different conversation. But so I worked at the King Biscuit Flour Hour record label for like 5 months maybe because I hated them. But I used to use a story in job interviews about my time there all the time when people would say, you know, how do you problem solve? I fixed the copier at such a pristine level that it was like a story I trotted out in my early career job interviews pretty frequently.
My first internship at the World Trade Center for Dean Winter Reynolds, I was the printer kid.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
It's a skill set. So the year I took off of NYU, that was definitely a nepotism job. I worked in the back office of a commodities clearing firm and I moved them from wherever they were to the NYMEX building at one point. And when we moved, Michael Hutchins from INXS died, and I had to go into mourning simultaneously while we were moving that office.
Fair enough. You paid your dues.
I mean, I feel like I have in my own way. It was varied. It was varied early on.
Wait, but how did the cosmetics world come calling?
So BAM leads to a skill set in fundraising, which is an actual skill set versus everything else that I have done up to this point. And then I temped for a year. And that's actually where I learned how to be an employee, because when you get dropped in someplace that you aren't permanent, you learn how to do what is asked of you and ask the necessary questions and get on with it. And so that was actually a boot camp that was pretty substantial. So I temped from September 2020 to like September 2021. That is the wrong math. 2000 to 2001. That's the right math.
You de-aged yourself.
I did. Well, you keep offering it to me. So apparently I was just running with it. So young. So I learned a lot about being just adaptable, I think is the word I'm looking for. So some of my assignments were 3 days, some of them were 2 weeks, and one was like 6 months in a law firm. So like I really kind of I got to see a lot of how New York works. And then I went off to South America for 3 months and came back. And then I took a job at the Jewish Museum on 92nd and 5th. And I was there for like 20 months. And that was my longest stint. I was very proud of myself.
Using those skills.
Using those skills because I was in the membership department.
There you go.
So fundraising. So BAM got me into that space. Then I quit that job and went to Australia for 3 months.
I love these international sorbet. These sorbet.
It was bookended. I bookended the Jewish Museum with South America and Australia. Yeah. And then I came back, and by Australia, I was in my mid-20s, and I had started to have some clarity, right, about I obviously did a lot of work to live, to travel. And that was awesome. It's still awesome, but that was awesome. But I also came back from Australia kind of very focused on wanting to do whatever the next thing was, not taking the first thing that happened, trying to piece together something that worked for me. So I came back and I took a part-time job at Alvin Ailey in their development department because they were working on a project that I had a skill set for that was finite. And I taught a children's theater class, and I took like a book club, a graduate history class at the City University just for fun. And I really treated it like a book club. And then I realized that I wasn't going to be able to make my monthly bills on just the teaching gig and the part-time project for Ailey.
Yeah.
And that is when I read an ad on Craigslist.
That whole rent thing is such a bummer.
Yeah, really, I'm telling you. And I read an ad on Craigslist for a part-time maternity leave 6-month gig at Cancer and Careers.
Wow.
In January of 2004. And I started...
like a Sunday New York Times want ad? What the hell is that?
It was Craigslist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That was around, just for the record, Craigslist is like 35 or 40 years old. It's like one of the first like pre-internet 90s things, AOL CD time.
So there I was, kind of pitching myself like you've never seen, because they were all, this isn't a permanent role. It's part-time. It's temporary. 2 people going on maternity leave. And I was like, that's perfect. I have another one of those. It's finite. That's great for me. Like, that may have been what got me hired along with the side of skill set.
South America.
Yeah, I got things to do. Yeah. I just got to like make this work.
Like Greenland's calling.
Kind of. And then life took a lot of curves, and it was a place that was just getting its feet under it. It was 3 years old. It was founded with passion and conviction, and it was off to a strong start, focused on good information and education in a written format. And there was a lot to work with, and it was a white space, and I liked the people. And Cancer and Careers was founded. It's the sole program of the CEW Foundation, and the CEW Foundation was founded by CEW Inc., and that is a membership organization focused on women leadership and growing women leaders in the beauty and cosmetic and related fields. And so it was the happiest accident that I had no forethought about how that was going to ultimately play out. I was just delighted to find something interesting. I thought the problem was interesting. It was an equity issue that no one had ever heard of. I don't literally mean no one, but on the day-to-day, yes. I'm still struggling with that on the day-to-day.
Yeah, how's that going?
21 years later, we're still working on it. But you know what I mean? Like, it really felt like it resonated with the part of me that always really cared about fairness, and that you could possibly be diminished in your work life because of something that happens to you. That sounds about the least fair on a list of things that happen in the world that are least fair thing. And so I was really able to like attach myself to that problem. And I had a history minor in college, and I'm a person who will research something and think something through and analyze it. And then the skill set from the theater is how do you talk to an audience and what are you trying to convey to them and how do you make information accessible and compelling and useful and simple enough to use. And I'm not saying there wasn't groundwork towards all of that before I got there. Of course there was, but there was a place I could make a mark. And I don't like to be a cog in a wheel, Matt. I'm sure you're shocked to learn that piece of information.
This is brand new information.
Brand new. I want to try and fail and succeed and fail.
Lady
and all of those
Sisyphus.
things. Yeah. And so it was really I didn't know a place could capture my attention. I mean, part of why you quit a lot of jobs is they're not helping you grow or challenging you or any of those things. And so while it didn't mean travel wasn't still important to me, this was the first time something was more interesting than cutting out. And a whole series of things had to happen for it to become a place that wound up having a role for me, despite we don't have a job after the 6 months original statement.
Right. So I want to take another break for the third segment. We're going to do a special edition out of Patience, 60 minutes, because I'm making up for lost time. We're like doing 2 shows for the price of 1 here, because I'm not going to see you till it's 2047. So I got to get in when I got it in. But before we go to break, I want to thank you for introducing me to my first sample sale. And let's talk about that after the break. All right, as the straightest gay man who loves musical theater, I didn't know what a sample sale was, and I was dating my wife at the time when I met you. And I said, like, this Rebecca wants me to go, what's a sample sale? She's like, oh, just go get me stuff. And like, you let me go to I was the only man at the sample sale for the CEW. Why did you send me there? And thank you.
So what's funny about that is I didn't realize you and Jess weren't married yet.
Yeah.
We've known each other for way too long.
I've known you longer than I've married my wife. Yeah.
I'm going to have to sit with that later. I'll try not to get distracted by that now.
And my kids were -7.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that part's easier to sort of absorb. Yeah. But anyway, so it's even better than a sample sale. It was a demonstration where you just got to take stuff.
Yeah, I walked out with all these. I was like, who's that guy? What's he doing here? These satchels of things.
The era has evolved quite a lot, which is how you know you've been around a long time. So that event doesn't run that way anymore. But back then, yeah, it was just kind of, and it still is, and it's an event that CEW puts on that's focused on really bringing the new products to life for people who then vote on them, and they're the people who would know best what a good product is and all this stuff. But it's a really fun night. And early on, before it became this kind of even wilder thing, everyone got a handful of tickets. And so I would, dole them out.
Yeah.
And it was always fun to bring the people, and it wasn't tons, so you were actually in a pretty small group, but it was always fun to bring the people who wouldn't otherwise be going, because it was such
Especially those with
bounty.
Y chromosomes.
Yeah. It was you were not the only male that has ever been, but yeah, you would have been, you probably didn't.
That evening
him.
Was very special. Yeah. It's a core memory.
Yeah, well, that's fun. It was fun. I don't know. I think part of what I, besides the deep, important work and the issue around the intersection of work and cancer, part of why I fell in love with the place was it wasn't run in an archaic way or an old school way, or you were around other industry and information and ways to think about things, which can only make your work in your lane better. And so I think, when I think about my time in nonprofit arts organizations, which I'm going to be careful about, it was influential and I learned things, but I also realized that I didn't get the same joy out of working in those spaces when what I wanted to be doing was creating. Whereas at Cancer and Careers, it was tackling something.
Right.
And it was tackling something new.
Well, they gave you autonomy to kind of make it your own. And at the time the maternity ended, you were still there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and 21 years later, I'm still here.
The term didn't end. Your temp never ended.
I did, and I'm the longest temp in history.
I want to talk about theater of the absurd because I come from theater. There are a few of us in the gaggle of the OGs who are theater people. You know, that we have an understanding of audience. And it's rarely what you want to say and more like how they should feel, which is, you know, the yes and strategy. I've seen you do your talks. You've seen me. We've seen our colleagues give our talks. Some of them are just sandpaper, but some of them are truly engaging. And I don't need to give you any more credit than you deserve, but you are good on stage. And that's rare. Do you own that?
It's interesting. Clearly not great because I'm making a face at you right now that our listeners can't see.
You are good on stage.
I appreciate that. And I'll tell you
You also like talk to children too, so that helps.
Yeah, I think what drives mine is two things. One, because I don't love something, I work harder at it. So I don't love being on stage.
As the introvert.
Correct. That's what exactly. Yes. Although I have so much acting training, it's hilarious for this. But telling stories is different and embodying someone else. And when I wanted to do that and live that, it overcame that. But the other thing is, I don't want to be someone who knows something that could help someone and not be able to convey it to them. And so when I'm really sitting in my authenticity and I'm really focused on the fact that there's someone in the room who needs to know this, it's so much easier for me than when I'm not. And I'm human. I own the human. And I think that's the hardest part of public speaking. I know.
Really?
I know. But so when something doesn't go as I hoped or when I trip over my words, I'm the first person to acknowledge it. And I think in my space where we're talking about work and cancer, being reminded that it's okay to be human and it's okay to backtrack and fix and tweak and move forward, that that everything isn't perfect is actually a good modeling as well. But I think I like the helping aspect. I like the connection aspect, and that gets me over some of the things I find harder to do. And I think you can be an expert in something and not be able to convey it, and that means you probably shouldn't be the person conveying it.
Especially when they democratize platforms like podcasting. Remember, I'm a blogger. Look at me, I'm a blogger.
I mean, everyone's a photographer now too.
Yeah, I know, right?
And part of me thinks awesome.
Good for you.
And then part of me thinks, well, that makes it harder for the obsessive compulsive way in which I approach doing it because I'm thinking about it so differently from a period of time where film was precious. So I'm also wildly willing to take more pictures of things than I need because it's not precious now. So it's an interesting thing to evolve through all of these changes that we have lived through.
One of the most important things I was taught by one of my mentors in college, his name was Seymour Fink. He was like a Vienna Philharmonic pianist for 80 years. And he never heard of Elvis, like this really storied German man. And he was explaining to me, you can study all you want and get up there and do all the performances you want, but 99.9% of the crowd has no idea you fuck up. Only you do. Mm-hmm. But your job as an artist to improve yourself is to impress the 1%. How do you feel about that? Because you don't play to the crowd, you play to the one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's how I treat when I get on stage and I do my shtick. We're just so used to doing our shtick, it comes, naturally to us. We're doing it for the one person in the crowd. Yeah,
I mean, I think that part about this part of my life is right. I'm not. So we shared a photographer for years in our life of live events, Chad.
Yes.
And Chad used to take photographs and text me while I was on stage of the people asleep during my sessions.
Oh, God.
The first time I saw it for myself, I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. And after that, I thought it isn't. If that's what that person needed to be doing in that room right then that person was doing what they needed to be doing in that room right now.
The asterisk people in the crowd are cancer patients too.
No, I know, but
this isn't like you're not playing it like Shady Pines on the Golden Girls.
No, well, for sure. But I think what I mean by it is, to your point, you are to the one person, to the person in the middle of the room nodding who looks like you are suddenly putting Lego pieces together for them, that's who you're talking to. So it stopped being something I worried about if there were a couple snoozers.
Right. All right. Real question. Not that anything else here has been real for the last 48 minutes. Can you point, as I can in my world, to any 1, 2, or 3 specific wins that have stuck in the last 20 years in your world?
I feel like I need you to define my world, Matt.
The cancer and careers
Okay.
world.
Just wanted to make sure.
Not the weird Jewish musician Hanukkah twin dad world.
Well,
Just
that's
to be
your
clear,
world.
I said my world's over here.
I know. I got it.
Your world. Take away South America and the dance troops and talking to kids and your weird, baby powder kids TV show thing, whatever that was. I'm not going to remember it. Go ahead.
Fine. I mean, of course, and I think some wins are might seem much smaller on the outside, but they were building blocks of larger things. I really feel like this is the one you could have sent me in advance, though, so I could have had clarity of thought.
I'll put it this way. Someone gets cancer at work 20 years ago and this happens. Someone gets work at cancer today and this doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That said, I actually think in some ways, some of that isn't as different as I would like it to be. And that's the systemic change, which is where I spend a lot of my time churning in my brain and in my world to think about how that can be evolved. I think one of the major wins is we have a lot more language around what that experience looks like and how to navigate it than we did 20 years ago. And I think that the work world has changed. And also changed back and changed back and all of that stuff.
Virus thing,
Just a little thing we like to call a pandemic.
Yes.
So I'll tell you, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and this was one of the greatest recent compliments on the work that Cancer and Careers does. She is someone who has personally navigated her own cancer diagnosis, treatment, work, and very recently. And she said one of the things and she did not find us early, which is my least favorite thing.
Yeah. Right? The where were you when I needed you bullshit.
Yeah, or more to the point, I wish I had known about you sooner. We get that a lot, and I totally appreciate it. And it is, how do you scream any louder in the void and all of that
That's
stuff.
still rent space in my head.
Yeah, of course it does. I don't think it'll ever go away. Yeah. It is the greatest knife to the heart while knowing you're doing all the work you can.
If only I knew.
Right. So she did say that, but that's not what she was telling me. So because she got introduced to us, she had spent a ton of time taking a look at everything. And she said, one of the things that I just appreciated so much was that you as in Cancer and Careers, understand that there are many different paths that this could take, and you aren't prescribing a single solution. You're helping people figure out what their path is based on knowing a lot of things about this challenge that you don't know what you don't know. And I was like, that is such a gift. Thank you for telling me that, because that is the case. Like, this isn't a one size fits all. Nothing is, but this certainly isn't. What is your job? What is your responsibility at your job? What is your company like? What are you like? What is your diagnosis? What is your treatment protocol? What are the side effects that are typical? What are the side effects you actually experience? Like, there is no, just
it's just
do
a hedge
this.
maze.
Yeah. And so for her to feel that come through when she was getting to know us really felt like that is a win, because I don't think that was obvious 2+ decades. We're going to be 25 next year, and those first handful of years, including the beginning of my tenure, we were still figuring out what to do about a problem that was much larger than originally planned to address.
Right.
Well,
behind one door is 11 more.
Totally. And so I think we know what we're doing, and that's a huge win. That's a 2-decade forward thing. And the world is talking about it a little bit different too. Every time a public figure chooses to disclose, as long as they're choosing to disclose, which is my soapbox, it helps further the conversation of what you can imagine people being able to do. And companies are starting to talk about it and care about it a lot more. And CEOs are becoming public with their own experiences and driving change and asking their peers to drive change. So there are big things happening.
So one more question before we go to my AI section.
Oh, boy.
which is my Gen X indulgence.
Oh, great.
I remember back in my day, we worried about our social footprint. Mm-hmm. Do not put this shit out there because the world's going to judge you for it. Back in my day, we were so obsessed with disclosing your social footprint to the eager young minds of tomorrow. Do not put your cancer story out on the internet. You will be judged. You will be stigmatized. HR will not hire you, but not tell you they won't hire you. Has all that changed with everything's on the table with the internet?
It has not.
Okay.
So I think that we know how to help people think about what's important to them differently than we did before. And so if it is important to you as an individual to have that and have it be public, then that is a super valid, important thing to know about yourself and choice. So I think the discussion of it looks a little bit different, but we do a lot of research, and the research still shows that people fear losing their job or not getting a job because of it. So that change is a thing I am forever railing about, as you very well know, and is a slow roll. And that's partly why something like the Working with Cancer Pledge that Publicis started 2 years ago, that we are working with them on both internally and more broadly as we talk about what companies can do, why that matters. Because the more companies that start talking about it internally and work to remove the stigma, the more that trickles all over the place and helps with this issue. But no, people are still afraid they're going to lose their job or not get a job. That is still a thing we talk about every single day.
So I want to put a link in the episode description to your recent research report that I was, fanboying about on LinkedIn. What's the boilerplate?
So nearly every year, Cancer Incurs has taken the temperature of people who have navigated work after a diagnosis. And Matt is talking about fanboying our 2024 data, which I was delighted by. And that survey was a little bit different because we asked some more questions about expectations around employers and what they need from them. And we're hoping that that will be part of a much more robust conversation about how this works both in the healthcare space, which we didn't talk about, Matt, but doctors, nurses, social workers need to think work is important if it's important to their
We'll
patient.
talk about that in 2047 when you come back.
Perfect. And then employers and then the individual.
Yep. All right. So my roundup on every show these days is I ask my AI friend, Mr. Chatbot, if Rebecca V. Nellis were a Netflix series. Oh, no. Who would your 3 Gen X pop culture soulmates be? You are Velma Dinkley from Scooby-Doo. Hyper competent, underestimated, always the one who actually solves the mystery while everyone else is flailing about. You trade Scooby snacks for spreadsheets and takes down corporate HR nonsense with data logic and a glare that says, just try me.
The just try me feels right.
You are Diane Chambers from Cheers. Intellectual, idealistic, and just self-aware enough to know she's often the smartest one in the room without letting anyone else know how she really feels, while still being deeply annoyed about it. She's bookish with bite, romantic about purpose, and has perfected the art of politely torching idiocy with vintage vocabulary, which I can attest to. And it couldn't figure out a third one, so you are a hybrid third one. You are a combination of the best of Tess McGill, Melanie Griffith from Working Girl, Anne Hathaway's Andy Sachs from Prada, and Violet Newstead, Lily Tomlin's character from 9 to 5. And I didn't write this, I wrote it. Starting as an outsider, ended up running the show with the sharp instincts and a sneaky genius. Someone who's done pretending the system's fair and who learned to play the game while rewriting the rules as she goes. No stilettos required, just receipts, righteous rage, and a killer plan. Don't fuck with Rebecca Nellis.
So the absolute best part about that is that 9 to 5 has made an appearance.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't Dolly. It was Lily.
No, I'm saying Lily feels right.
Yes. AI knows you. AI knows you.
Terrifying.
Yeah, you get to keep this. It's a souvenir. That's how much I love you.
I mean, it's just the beginning.
All right. Well, 18 years later, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. All right. That's our show. Rebecca versus Nellis. I love you forever. Don't change. Here's to that 43rd passport stamp. All right. We'll see you next time, folks. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.
Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is a production of Matthew Zachary Worldwide. The executive producer is Matthew Zachary. It is mixed and edited by Kyle Moore. If you like the show, ratings and reviews are always welcome wherever you get your podcasts. If you have guest suggestions or would like to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, email podcast@matthewzachary.com. For more information about Matthew Zachary and Matthew Zachary Worldwide, visit matthewzachary.com.